Bridgewood Church is a place where a perfect God meets imperfect people. That means no matter where you're at in life, everyone is welcome here. This is a place where we experience God every time we gather together. A place where we discover community at every stage of life, from kids to adults from all walks of life and in every step of the journey. This is a place where we unpack and engage our God-given purpose. A place where generosity reigns as we live to serve and give back to our generous God, our community, and our world. Because ultimately, we believe that we owe everything to the God who made us and saved us, which is what we're here to do today. So we invite you to join us as we reflect on who God is and respond to all He's done for us, today at Bridgewood.
Good morning, 1045. How are you? Good? Good. So glad to have you with us. And if this is your very first service with us here at Bridgewood, we want to welcome you today. Come on, Bridgewood, give a hand to all of our first-time guests with us today. Great to have you. I'm looking to the camera. Welcome those that are going to watch online this week here at Bridgewood as well. And so again, thank you so much for being here with us. I want to also let you know right now, happening right now, you still have time. You can get up and go right over to the Next Steps room. Next Steps number 3 is happening this morning, and you're going to learn all about discovering your impact in the world here, and we would love for you to do that. There are 3 steps in Next Steps that we would love for you to be able to do, and so that's taking place. So if you do want to just sneak out, we promise we won't look at you. Just run out real quick and going on up there. That's happening right now as we're talking. And then as well, there's a connection card. Looks like this right in the seat back in front of you. And if you're a guest, we promise not to bother you or bug you saying anything, but we do want to connect with you. Super important. And so if you'll fill that out in just a moment, you can just drop that in the bucket as it comes by. And if we can help you or direct you in any way possible, we would love the opportunity to do that. We'll also be right outside, right after this service is over, out in the gallery there. So come and say hello if you haven't done that yet. I'm super excited because we just kicked off a series last week called Inside Out that we're continuing today. We're talking all about relationships this month, but we're really turning the focus upon ourselves, and we're really looking at the heart, the inside of us, because here's the deal. We can't have right relationships if you and I aren't right. And so a lot of times we get so focused on fixing everybody else that we forget about ourselves. And so this series is really designed more as a mirror, not a magnifying glass, and for us to take a look inside of us and say, God, where are the things that are in my heart, in my emotions, in my mind that aren't quite right, that I need to get right so that I can have right relationships? And so I am super excited that we're going to continue that here for the next few weeks. Along with that, we got some really cool things you'll hear about in just a minute that are going to help get you connected as well. So that's going to happen. But the ushers are getting ready to come. And so ushers, why don't you do this as they're getting ready. I'm going to just set up our guest that's here with us because he's quickly becoming a part of our Bridgewood family here. But John Opaleski is just a great, great friend. And I've been so impressed with just the ministry that the Lord has given him to help coach people and work through some of those issues on the inside. And him and his wife Laura are here with us. They were here back in the fall. It was super, super powerful. We had a great first service, so that we're glad that you're here as well. You're going to hear more about it. He's going to come right after the announcement video, and I want you to give him a warm Bridgewood welcome when he comes. And I want you to help him make him feel part of the family here. But ushers, come, would you? As a part of our worship today, we continue to give. You'll hear in just a minute that our team night is going to be happening. I've got 2 really important, urgent prayer needs that I need you to join with me today. I'm going to save one of them for the end, but want you to join with us. So Pastor Caleb and Michaela, our worship arts pastors that are here, Michaela was having some pretty intense pain, went into the hospital, and the doctors have been working to try to figure out what's happening. The good news is the twins are fine. They're okay, but Mom has had a rough couple of days. She's actually still in the hospital right now as we speak, and so she needs your prayers. And I know all of you ladies that are out there that have been through, maybe not twins, but been through what she's going through, knows that we just need to cover them in prayer. We are going on with team night tonight. Actually, they said they possibly might be releasing her this afternoon, and Caleb said if she can make it, she's coming. And so we're going to still celebrate just in case those twins make an entrance into this world quicker than we think. And we want them to be fully prepared and blessed and ready for the incredible blessing that God has given them. So we're going on with that and going to do it, but I want you to keep her in your prayers. And as you're giving today, can I just tell you, we're super excited tonight to have our team night and be over at our Goodrich campus. You're going to see what giving and why it matters and why it makes a difference when we get to expand our influence like God is going to help us to do this year. And a lot of that is because of your generosity and your faithfulness. We're in the month of February, which means grinding through these winter months is really important to position us well for the year and to do that. So you're giving today. There's lots of ways to give. You can see on the screen. Give today with a cheerful heart. And as you're giving, take a look at the screen of what's happening in the next few weeks and then get your heart ready for week number 2 of Inside Out. Thank you so much.
The Love Shack Couples Retreat is not a weekend designed to work on your problems. It's not an ambush or open season on all of your flaws. This getaway is about being together, designed to be interactive and fun, with dinner at a restaurant of your choice, a couple of short creative teaching sessions, and optional activities like go-kart racing, escape rooms, and so much more. It's happening March 15th and 16th, but the registration deadline is next Sunday. So go to bridgewoodchurch.com/loveshack or to the Bridgewood app to register now. Then tonight from 4 to 6 p.m., we've got our first all-church team night of 2019. Only this time around, we'll be meeting at our new campus in Goodrich. You'll get a chance to see the building and to get a greater glimpse of the vision for both of our Bridgewood campuses moving forward as Pastor Kurt unpacks what's coming down the pike in 2019. And of course, there's going to be food and fun team activities, not to mention a few prizes and giveaways as we celebrate you, the amazing people who give of their time, talent, and treasure to accomplish the mission that God has us on. So get yourself and your kiddos there. Childcare will be provided. Right afterwards, we'll also be hosting a baby shower for the Weavers from 6 to 6:30. And with 2 daughters of my own, trust me when I say they're going to need all the help they can get with twin girls on the way. Diapers and gift cards are appreciated, so swing by on your way out from team night, grab a cupcake, and show them some love. One last thing. We've been gearing up for the Immersed Bible reading experience for weeks now, but it finally starts tomorrow. So pick up your copy of Immersed Messiah at the info kiosk if you haven't already, or download the audio version and get ready to experience the story of God like never before. And now, let's get ready to continue our Inside Out series and give John Opalewski a royal Bridgewood welcome as he comes to the stage.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you this morning. Thanks for coming out. I want to say thank you to Pastor Kurt and Christy for inviting us to be a part of your series, Inside Out on Relationships. And, a couple of days ago, I listened to Pastor Kurt's message from last Sunday. And if for some reason you didn't hear that message, you need to get onto the website and listen to it. It was amazing, a powerful message, and so wonderful to be with you. I want to introduce you to my wife, Laura. If you didn't meet her when we were here in November, honey, would you stand up real quick? This is my wife, Laura, right here. Laura and I have been married for almost 38 years now, and we have 4 boys, 3 daughters-in-law, and one granddaughter who is the absolute light of my life. Whenever that baby is in my arms, everything's right with my world. And she was in my arms last night. We had the kids over for just a dinner, and I got to spend so much time with the baby, and it was just awesome. And we have another granddaughter coming in June. So life is really, really good for us, and we're excited about all the good things that are happening in our own family. We're just neat, man. How many of you are grandparents, and you just think it's the greatest thing in the world, right? It's just an amazing stage of life. I love it. Whenever we travel and speak, we always bring resources with us because we think, more than ever, I think that what we listen to, what we read, the content that we put into our mind and into our hearts matters. It's always mattered, but it matters more now, I think, than ever because there's just so much stuff that we are exposed to that isn't true. And so I've written some books, and I want to talk to you about a couple of them real quick. This book is called Unshakable You, 5 Choices of Emotionally Healthy People. So if you or somebody you know suffers with depression, anxiety, emotional distress, this book will be extremely helpful to you or to them. So it's a short read. We have the same content in DVD format. If you don't like to read and you'd rather watch a DVD with that content, we have that as well. And just wanted to tell you about this newer book that came out a year ago. I co-authored this one. It's called Putting the Good in Goodbye, a healthy conversation about the comings and goings of church people. I co-wrote this with Jim Wiegand. Jim pastors the Freedom Center in Fenton, Michigan, and he's part of our team. And we wrote this book primarily for leaders, but we've been a little bit surprised that we've got folks that are lay people who have picked this book up and read it, and they said, John, I never realized how my behavior impacts our leadership. And so if you want to figure that out, if you want to figure out how to pray for your pastors and how to be a great lay person in this church, that book will really help you out. So that's what we have out there, and I think we have something else out there as well. How many of you would like to have some fun this morning before we get started? Hopefully the whole message is fun, right? But I want to get started with something fun. Is that okay to do here? Can we do that? Okay. How many of you have heard of the newspaper, the Washington Post? Yeah. And the Washington Post, many, many years ago, had this feature in the styles section of their newspaper where readers would take a word and they would alter that word by adding, subtracting, or changing one letter, and then the readers would supply a new definition for that new word, and they had this contest, and they gave away prizes for the best word change. So I got 4 of those that I drew out of there, and I thought I would share with you this morning. Okay, you ready for them? Here's the first one: intaxication. Euphoria at getting a tax refund, which lasts until you realize it was your money to start with. All right. Let's do another one. Reincarnation. Reincarnation. Coming back to life as a hillbilly. Arachnoleptic fit. The frantic dance performed after you walk through a spider web. I used to live in a house with a crawl space. A lot of spider webs in that crawl space. Let me give you one more. Beelzebub. Satan in the form of a mosquito that gets into your bedroom at 3 a.m. and cannot be cast out. All right, enough of that. What if I told you that if you get right what I'm about to share with you this morning, that it would propel your life into greater happiness? Would you be interested in that? What if I told you that it would solve one of the most vexing problems we face as human beings? Would you be interested in that? I'd like to talk with you this morning on the subject of friendship and your emotional health. Friendship and your emotional health. In 2018, we saw a number of high-profile cases of suicide, including Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain. Closer to home here, Fox 2 meteorologist Jessica Starr took her life just several weeks ago. And Andrew Stockline, you might not know who Andrew Stockline is, but he was a 30-year-old pastor in California who left behind a wife, 3 children, in an evangelical megachurch, and his suicide sent shockwaves through the church. And as tragic as those sad events were, they're only the tip of a much larger iceberg. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association, in 2016 in the United States, there were 45,000 suicides. Now, the experts who study this for a living really believe that the number is 180,000, 4 times that number. But the only reason they don't report them all is they can't prove them all, but they think that's the number. 180,000 completed suicides in 2016. And for every completed suicide, there are 6 attempts. So we know that 2 years ago, there were over 1 million suicide attempts in the United States. And the most recent statistic that I have is the suicide rate in 2018 was the highest it has been in 50 years in our country. So we're dealing with a very serious epidemic of suicide. I'm not here to talk to you about suicide this morning. I want to just set up the topic because the epidemic of suicide can be traced to many things, but the major reason, the one major source is loneliness. Loneliness. And we're going to tackle that issue today. Here's the key thought I'd like to give you today. We will climb as high in life as the depth of our relationships. We will climb as high in life as the depth of our friendships. And our key scripture this morning is found in the Gospel of John, chapter 15. John wrote one of the 4 accounts of Jesus' life, and in John 15, verse 15, he said to the 12 men who were following him, I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. This is really a significant scripture. Jesus said, I no longer call you servants, I call you friends, because a servant doesn't know his master's business. I have made everything that the Father has shown me that I've learned from him, I have made known to you. Now, I want to take a minute just to explain this passage of Scripture to you. The word translated servant there in John 15:15 literally means bondservant or slave. So Jesus told these guys who were closest to him, I no longer call you a bondservant. From now on, I call you friends. That was a huge shift in their relationship. Jesus was telling them, hey, a new relational platform is being established. And that platform will be marked by unrestrained friendship. You see, from Jesus' perspective, friendship implies 2 things, openness and availability. I want you to say those 2 words with me this morning because they're so important, openness and availability. These 12 guys were still his servants, but moving forward, he was going to relate to them differently. He would treat them like intimate, familiar friends. I no longer call you servants because a servant doesn't know his master's business. I call you friends. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems to me that in 2019, people are lonelier than ever. You know, it appears to me that we're more technologically connected than ever, and at the same time, more relationally disconnected than ever. It's funny, not really, I guess it's not funny, it's kind of tragic in a way, how many of us feel comfortable living our lives publicly on social media, but very uncomfortable picking up a phone or talking to people face to face. Have you noticed that? When I was with you in November, I told you the story about my struggle with suicidal depression 26 years ago. And I'm not going to rehash that whole story, but just give you a summary. 26 years ago, Laura and I were in Freeland, Michigan. I was pastoring a church that was growing. We had been there at that time for 4 years, and we were having the best year of our tenure. Everything was clicking at the church. We had tremendous momentum. We had to go to 2 services to accommodate the growth. It was just an amazing year of ministry, but it was the absolute worst year in my life emotionally. And I had gotten to a point where life had gotten so dark that I had put a plan together to take my life. And the last piece of the puzzle was I was figuring out what was I going to write Laura in the suicide note. But thank God she intervened. Laura knew I was in trouble. She knew that, think about it, I've got a growing church, beautiful wife, 4 awesome boys. Everything in life looked good, but on the inside I was an emotional train wreck. But Laura knew that I was in trouble. She got me to a doctor, she got me to a counselor, and that started my journey back to health. But listen, I would have never survived that long, dark tunnel of depression without the love and support of my wife and 3 couples that I had friendship with for several years, some of them many years. Some of them were lifelong friends who came alongside me in that crisis. They loved me, they prayed for me, they laughed with me. You see, we will climb as high in life as the depth of our relationships. And as a matter of fact, the higher you climb in life, the more you need relationships. I'll explain that in just a bit. Now, I think all of us in the room this morning, probably most of us, intellectually buy into this idea that friendship is important. I think we all intellectually buy into that. It's the living it out piece that we struggle with. We struggle with it. Some of us struggle with it more than others. And the question I have is why? Why do we struggle with friendship so much in 2019? What gets in the way of that? Now, there are a lot of things I could mention that contribute, but I'm just going to give you 3 things that I think really are the three that are in top of mind for me right now. They might not even be the 3 most major things, but these are 3 things that are on my mind. Here's the first one, and that is fear. Fear gets in the way of friendship. The fear of rejection. The fear of being found out. Let me explain that for a minute. I think we are afraid many times, and especially us men, of being found fraudulent. We're terrified that people will discover we're not as together as we project ourselves to be. And for some of us here, that fear of being rejected and not accepted paralyzes us, and we retreat from relationships. Sometimes it's the fear of getting hurt again. I would assume in a crowd of this size that many of you have experienced relational pain in your life, and that pain has been real, it's been legitimate, it's something that you didn't ask for, it was thrust on you, and that has caused you to be hesitant to reach out and really get involved in the lives of other people. Here's what I'm not saying this morning. If you've been injured relationally in a legitimate fashion, I'm not trying to minimize your pain this morning. I'm not trying to say get over it. I'm not being that way at all. I identify with that. I know what it's like to be stabbed in the back. I understand the pain of that. And in some cases, staying away from dangerous people like that is understandable and advisable. The Apostle Paul told Timothy, who was a young apprentice of his, he said to Timothy, I want you to guard yourself against Alexander the metalworker because he did me a great deal of harm. And there are people in the world, in your life perhaps, that are dangerous, toxic people, and you need to figure out, how do I navigate those relationships without them continue to inflict pain on my life? That's one of the reasons we bring books like this. Chapter 3 of this book talks about how to protect yourself from abuse. I did not know how to do that as a young guy. And I had to learn the hard way. I don't want you to have to learn the hard way. I'd rather have you learn in advance so you never have to go through what I went through. But fear gets in the way, doesn't it? Here's the truth. Every relationship in your life carries a degree of risk. Every relationship. There is no such thing as a risk-free relationship except with Jesus. Oh, by the way, He'll never let you down. He'll never do anything to damage you. But, sometimes He asks you to take risks, right? So, I don't even know if Jesus is a risk-free relationship in some ways, because sometimes He asks you to do stuff that, man, you think, that doesn't make any sense, Lord. Why am I supposed to do that? And we do it because we know He's good and He's leading us to do it. But here's something I learned in the business world, 20 years in the business world. No risk, no reward. No risk, no reward. And the same thing is true with relationships. So fear is one of the things that gets in the way of friendship. Here's another thing is social media. Social media. Now, I use Facebook and Twitter every day. I use Instagram some. I'm learning how to figure it out. You're looking at me say, man, you don't know anything about technology. Yeah, we worked in technology for 20 years, and I still can't figure out Instagram totally. I'm still working on that. So I'm not anti-social media. Please don't hear that from me. But here's what I'm learning. Social media has the capacity to trick us into thinking we're experiencing friendship when we're not. Digital friendships alone are not enough to keep us healthy emotionally. Digital friendships aren't there for you in the low moments of your life. Maybe they are, but not really. And here's what I've also learned about social media. It can make other people's lives seem more perfect than they really are. Man, I wish I had their life. I wish I had their kids. I wish I had that house. I wish I could be in Florida right now. I do wish I could be in Florida right now. And there's this sense of dissatisfaction that begins to well up inside of us. There's this sense that I'm a loser because they've got such a great life. How many of you know that most people who are healthy don't vomit on social media? They only are showing you the best of their lives. I guarantee you that every couple who posted on Facebook on Valentine's Day this past week about their spouse, and I think it's a great thing to do. It's wonderful to praise your spouse in public. I think that's awesome. But I guarantee you that every one of those couples has had an argument or two in the last several weeks. I didn't see that on social media. So do you see how that can get in the way? It can fool you into thinking that you're having intimacy with people, and you're not. And it can fool you into thinking their life is much better than yours, when a lot of times it's pretty much like yours. So, fear, social media. Let me give you one more contributor that gets in the way of friendships, and that is our calendar. Our calendar can get in the way of friendship. Busyness hinders friendship. I have never seen people busier than I do now. Never. Christians included. Our discretionary time seems at an all-time low. When we moved to Detroit almost 22 years ago now, we came from Traverse City, Michigan. Traverse City is a small town. It swells in the summer, and all the flatlanders, as they call them, come up to Traverse City and enjoy the beauty up there. But it's a very small town, and we moved from there to Detroit, and I could not believe the pace down here. I just couldn't believe it. Our boys played soccer, and so some of our friends had their boys were playing soccer, and as soon as the soccer game was over, then they had to go to I don't know what else it was, archery or something like that, or they were on another team. Their kids were in 5 or 6 things, and I'm thinking, I got 4 boys, and they're playing one sport at a time, and I can barely keep up. And these folks, they've got 3 or 4 kids, and they're doing 5, 6 things at the same time. It was insane. I don't know if any of you live like that, but man, I don't want anything to do with that kind of life. our calendar. You might be here this morning, and the thought of carving out time to nurture friendship is throwing you into anxiety as I speak. But here's the truth. Healthy friendship is the exact antidote for your anxiety. It will help you manage your stress. It will help you manage your anxiety. It will help you manage your emotional health. Here's the question I have for you. What can you let go of that creates space for friendship in your life? That's something I'd like you to chew on, not just now, but during the week. God, what can I let go of? What can I stop doing that creates room for friendship in my life? You know, I worked in the corporate world for 20 years. I think I already mentioned that to you. And I understand something, that the marketplace can be a very busy place to work. It can be very demanding. There can be seasons of incredible busy in the marketplace. But here's what I've learned about busy seasons. They have this uncanny capacity to expand and become our only season. And we work 60, 70 hours a week after week after week, no stopping, no slowdown. We're pedal to the metal, hair on fire all the time. Can I encourage you this week to have a heart-to-heart with God and figure out what the real reason is why your calendar is so jammed? For some of you, it comes right back to fear. You're afraid of losing your job. You're afraid of not having enough money. You're afraid that people will be critical of your work ethic. You know, one of the things I couldn't stand, I loved working in the corporate world, but one of the things that drove me nuts is when I would put in a 50-hour week and I would leave on Friday and people would say, bye, part-time. That just grated me. I thought, what in the world? I got a family I want to get home to. And yet, you know, do you relate with that pressure? Did anybody, you ever get called part-time? Don't yield to that kind of stuff. Work hard, be diligent, do a great job, but don't let other people make you feel bad because you have other priorities in your life besides work. I'm not saying be lazy, right? I'm not saying be a bad employee, but realize this, that your friends at work are not going to write your obituary. It will be your family that does that. And what do you want them to say about you at the end of your life? That wasn't in my notes. I just added that in for free. Now, I don't know what's going on in your head right now, but I'm thinking some of you are saying this. John, great, nice talk, whatever. But why should I care? So what? What if I don't do anything with this message? What if I don't listen to anything you have to say and I just go on with my life the way it is? I've gotten this far without friends. I actually had somebody say that to me a while back. And I had two things that came to my mind. I didn't say either of them because the first one wasn't very redemptive. But what I thought in my mind is, you are crazy. You're telling me, this guy was probably 60, 65 years old. You're 65 and you're telling me you've made it through life without any friends. I feel sorry for you because you have missed a part of life that nobody should miss, especially if you want to be healthy. So let me give you two reasons why you should care. Is that all right if I do that? Let me give you two. Number one, replenishing friendships significantly impact our health. They impact our health. They keep us emotionally full. Here's what I've learned about good friends. They can celebrate victories with you, and they can help you bear your burdens. I've learned this. A shared win is multiplied. A shared burden is automatically cut in half. How many of you would like the burden you're carried to be reduced by 50% within seconds? Tell somebody you trust about it, and it will automatically be cut in half. Several years ago, the Mayo Clinic did some research on friendship, and I thought this was pretty interesting. They concluded that healthy friendships can actually extend your lifespan. I thought that was pretty neat. The researchers that did the work linked friendship and health because they felt like healthy friendship helped us process stress. How many of you got any stress in your life? And you need help processing it. Friendship will help you with that. And I read that and I thought, it's really true. We will climb as high in life as the depth of our friendships. And by the way, the higher you climb in life, the more relationships you need, the better relationships you need. You might not need more necessarily, but they have to go deeper. The more success God gives you in life, the more you need your friends. Because the more success you get in life, the easier it is for you to get full of yourself. The easier it is to think you don't need people. The easier you think it is, boy, I'm having so much success in my life, I'm having so much momentum in my life, I can take on more and I can take on more, and we lie to ourselves about how much we can handle in life. I'm telling you, I've had more emotional challenge in times of success in my life than I have in times when I was struggling in my life. Isn't that weird? And I don't know if anybody else has that. So replenishing friendships, you should care because you should care about your health, and having great friendships will get you healthier. Secondly, another reason you should care is healthy friendships keep us safe. They keep us safe. They keep us safe from two major things: from ourselves, first of all, and they also keep us safe from the devil's plan for our life. How many of you realize that it's very easy to lie to yourself when you're alone? When you're in extended isolation, you can start thinking crazy thoughts. Nobody thinks right for very long in isolation. You begin to imagine things that aren't even true. And you and I need people who can speak into our lives and tell us the truth, who we can talk to and they can reflect back to us. We have to have that. It keeps you safe from yourself, but it also keeps you safe from the devil. And I don't know if you know this, but he has a plan. We've always heard God has a plan for your life, right? Well, the devil has a plan for your life too, and here it is. His plan is to isolate you and to kill you, to take you out. That's his plan for your life. And friends will protect you and keep you safe from his plan for your life. So those are two really good reasons I think you should care. But maybe you're thinking, well, okay, I care, but I'm still not going to do anything about it because I don't know how to make friends. I don't know how to build friendships. Well, I have help for you as well. Let me give you 7 really quick hacks to building healthy friendships this morning. You might want to take notes. 7, these are going to be fast. I could take 20 minutes on each one of these. I'm going to try to take just a minute on every one of these. So you say, hey, yeah, 7 times 1 is 1. We'll be done in 7 minutes. Hold tight. Not quite. Almost. 7 hacks to building healthy friendships. First one, go first. That's good, by the way. Go first. Rather than waiting for people to reach out to you, take the first step. And you may need to try several times before you know whether the other person is interested in a friendship with you. I've seen this dynamic happen at church a lot, where people who are new or newer to a church come and they sit, and I know this doesn't happen here. I think you all are a very friendly group of people, and you notice when there are new people and you take time to reach out and introduce yourself and get to know them a little bit. You do that really, really well, but that doesn't happen at every church. And so guests come, they don't feel like anybody's interested in them, and they don't stay very long. They may come back one more time, and then they're out. And I hear them say to me, John, nobody reached out to me at that church. And you know what? I sympathize with that, but at the same time, I say to them, did you reach out to anybody? Did you go first? Listen, some of you in this room are waiting for friendship to just drop on the front porch of your life. You need to go first. Take the initiative. Second, be reciprocal. Be reciprocal. Adult friendships that aren't reciprocal are unhealthy. You know, in a healthy friendship, it's both ways. You go both ways. Sometimes you're the person who's doing the encouraging and doing the listening, and other times you're the person who's getting encouraged and being listened to. One-sided friendships usually don't last very long. Third, be kind. Be kind. How many of you realize we live in a world that is extremely unkind? And it might be the most unkind in my entire lifetime. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think that's true. We live in an unkind world. Listen, kindness is relational currency. It puts change in your friendship pockets that you can draw out when needed. We live in such a mean-spirited world. Kindness will set you apart. And you'll become a people magnet. I like hanging out with people who are kind. I'm drawn to those kinds of folks. So be kind. Number 4, grow your listening skills. This one's tough. Grow your listening skills. You know, listen to understand rather than to reload. You know what I mean by that? So somebody's talking to you and you're thinking, oh boy, I got all these great things I'm going to come back with. You're kind of half listening to them. Anybody do that? I do that. You know, I'm working on that. I'm trying to get better at that. And instead of me listening to understand and to relate and not thinking about, man, I got 15 great things I'm going to just come right back with them. No, let's learn how to really listen. If you want to learn how to listen, watch Jesus in action in the Gospels. He's amazing. He gave people his full attention, and he was the Son of God, and he did that. Amazing. Grow your listening skills. Number 5, be trustworthy. Some of this stuff is basic, right? The ability to maintain confidentiality, to be reliable and dependable is foundational to healthy relationships. Some of you struggle with relationships. Some of us struggle with relationships because we're not reliable. We're not dependable. People can't depend on us. We let people down. We say we're going to do something and we don't do it. Learn how to become a trustworthy individual if you want somebody to trust you. Number 6, be wisely transparent. Be wisely transparent. You know, the more trust will grow between you and another person, the more you can share about yourself. I don't think it's ever really wise, unless you're in a counseling scenario, or sometimes when we do coaching, you know, guys have known me for 10 minutes and they tell me their whole life, you know, but they understand, you know, the parameters of that there's confidentiality and trust, and we've built a good reputation. But in personal relationships, sometimes we jump too fast to that, don't we? We find somebody who shows the slightest bit of interest in us, and our whole life becomes an open book in 30 seconds. I don't know if that's healthy. But then some of us take the other extreme, and we say, I am not going to let anybody ever know the real me, no matter what. And you know what? You can disagree with me all you want on this next statement. Not in my notes, just came to my mind. But listen, every one of us in this room needs a friend who knows everything about us, everything about us. For you to be healthy, you need somebody like that in your life. Be transparent. And then lastly, be available. Holy cow, we already talked about this, didn't we? Be available. Friendship does not happen accidentally. It happens intentionally. So create space on your calendar for friendship. Here's the punchline this morning. If you want to be healthy emotionally, you want to have enough in your emotional tank to run the race that God has called you to run, and do it in a way that keeps you healthy and happy and full of joy. If you want that in your life, it will require you to become friends with some people. It won't happen apart from friendship. Jesus had 12 guys around him, right? He had 12 guys around him, and he had an inner circle of 3, Peter, James, and John. He demonstrated friendship for us. You know, when you come to the end of your life, and I'd like the worship team to come on up at this point. When you come to the end of your life is not going to be measured by the size of your stock portfolio. It's not going to be measured by the possessions you accumulated, nor how high on the corporate ladder you've climbed. Are you listening to me? Your value, you won't be remembered for those things. Here's what you're going to be measured by in a large part. It will be measured by the friendships you've nurtured. Your life will not be measured by the amount of monetary value you put in your 401k. It will be remembered for the relational value you've deposited in people. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. Now, you can do one or two things with this talk this morning. You can ignore it and go on business as usual. Or you can take what I would consider to be a healthier next step, and that is to reflect on what you heard this morning every day this week for just a few minutes. And with the help of God, honestly assess the current state of your friendships. And I wonder how many of you that are here this morning would simply say, by an upraised hand, John, I'm going to choose the healthier next step. I'm going to spend time this week assessing my friendships and asking God to help me figure out where am I at really with that. How many hands would go up and say, I'll do that this week? Yeah, that's awesome. You can put your hands down. Can I say this? If you're new or newer here at Bridgewood Church and you're hungry for relationships, I'm going to make a pledge on behalf of those of us who would consider this our home. We pledge to slow down and notice you. Is that okay if I make a pledge on your behalf? To slow down and notice you and take a legitimate interest in your life. We apologize if we haven't done a good job of that, but we pledge that we are going to do that. You know, maybe you're here this morning, and I'm pretty confident, and again, in a crowd of this size, that there are maybe several of you, maybe more, who over the last couple of weeks or so have been experiencing some dark thoughts. You may have even thought about ending your life. Can I say to you that that doesn't make you a bad person? That doesn't make you inferior. You know what it makes you? It makes you human. But if you've been having thoughts of hurting yourself, can I encourage you with everything inside of me to reach out for help? Do not try to carry that. That's a burden way too heavy for you to carry by yourself. Open up. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. If you don't know anybody to talk to, I know the pastors on this staff. They are amazing people. And they'll do whatever they can to make sure that you get help. So if that's you this morning, I just wanted to give that to you as a challenge. Don't leave here today without telling somebody that you've been having some dark thoughts so that they can encourage you and pray for you. And now I'm going to ask all of you to close your eyes. In just a few seconds, the worship team's going to lead us in a song. But if you're here this morning and you haven't already done this, can I urge you to open yourself up to the single most important relationship you need? And that's one with Jesus Christ. Emotional health in your life starts with a for-real relationship with Him. And here's what I mean by a for-real relationship. It means He's the boss and you're not. It means you say, Jesus, I surrender. I'm done trying to run my own life outside of your leadership. I gave my life to Jesus over 44 years ago. Little coffee house in Saginaw, Michigan, sitting in a seat like you all are. And an invitation like this was given. And I said, Jesus, come be the boss of my life. And can I tell you, the most amazing thing happened to me. For the first time in my life, I felt clean on the inside. And I later learned what that was. That was my sins being forgiven. It was an amazing experience. And the second thing that happened, I felt like a load of bricks had been taken off of my shoulders. I mean, I felt new on the inside. Incredible. And that is available to everyone in this room today who hasn't said, Jesus, I surrender. I give my life to you. And I wonder, with every eye in this place shut, how many of you, by an upraised hand, say, John, I want that for-real relationship with Jesus Christ? And you just stick your hand up and hold it up so I can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, my word. Can we give Jesus a hand for that this morning? Isn't that neat? We had 12 people in first service this morning make the same decision. Can I encourage you, if you raised your hand this morning, before you leave, take 10 seconds and ignore everything else that's going on here and say, Jesus, I surrender. Pastor's going to come up after the worship team leads us, and he's going to give you some next steps for those of you that say, yeah, I surrender. But make it personal. Just between you and Jesus, before you leave, say, Jesus, I surrender my life. I don't even know what that all means, Lord, but I know I need that kind of relationship with you. Worship team, would you lead us?
That's the amazing thing that Jesus does, is He raises broken people to life again. You know, sometimes things inside of us get broke, don't they? Sometimes they get injured. Sometimes we deal with things that we try desperately to fix ourselves or to carry ourselves. I said, John, would you come in week number 2? Because if we can help one person, it would be worth it. But I think we're helping a whole lot more today than one person. If people would be open and honest enough to have a conversation that could keep them from something down the road, it would be worth it. If today the grace of God would be so evident in our lives, working in us and through us, that we would have grace for people sitting next to us who maybe we don't even really know what's going on inside of them or what they're carrying. Because if church doesn't deal with that, then we're missing an integral piece of the gospel. Jesus could walk into a village, he could walk into thousands of people, and he could see individual needs. He didn't see mass crowds. He saw individual needs. Church, I desperately want Bridgewood Church to be that kind of church. We're not perfect, and we don't always get this right. So there's so much room for us to improve, but there's so much more room for us to be real. And sometimes I just see that because we're in such a busy time in culture. People, I ask them, do you have a close friend? I'm shocked at how many people respond back and they say, no. Is there somebody in your life that you could tell anything to? No. Who would you call when you're in a situation that you need to get your head right and you need somebody to be able to have an honest conversation that you'll listen to? And most people will say, no, I don't. And so this is helping us to get this part right so that we can be right. And as we said last week to kick this series off, it all begins first with our vertical relationship, as John just said. And then it flows to our horizontal relationship. So when you think of the word intimacy, you can remember it this way. Intimacy. That's what intimacy is. Intimacy. It means when you pull the veil of your life wide open and you say, you can see me for who I am and you can know me for who I am. That's what intimacy is. And so sometimes I think that it's hard for us to be intimate with each other because we're not intimate with God. And so we try to come into a worship experience kind of acting like God doesn't really know what's going on when he really does. But then we approach relationships horizontally the same way. I don't really want to let you see everything. So I just want to take a moment. Again, here's what we're going to do. Our prayer team's going to be available. And we need to have some conversations. If you need a conversation today, there are people that are waiting, that have been praying this week to have a conversation with you. If you were one of the 12 or 13 or so that lifted your hand a moment ago and said, I need to get this relationship with God right first, then we're here for you. Would you come? Would you just let us pray for you for a moment? We're not signing you up to Bridgewood. We're not going to try to push something on you. We're just going to help you understand what that next step in a relationship is. And we need you to take that step. And we will be here for you to do that. Some of you are ready to go to another step. Maybe it's water baptism. Maybe it's getting connected to one of our groups here at Bridgewood because you feel isolated. You are isolated. And you need to be with others. And so maybe that group is the next step for you. There's a lot of things that we can help do today. But I want us just to do this. Would you lift your hand if you're comfortable? Lisa's going to sing this just one more time. And here's what I want to do. This relationship with God needs to be intimate. God, intimacy today. See me for who I am. Know me for who I am. So that when we walk out of here in just a few minutes, we can be that transparent with others. All right, so let's let it begin here and let God just begin to flow and feed into us today. Let's sing that through one more time. Here we go.